This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central, for more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. Fidelity Bank, for all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you. And Roper's Janitorial, complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the Record.
For the Record. For the Record.
Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you.
For the Record.
Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the Record.
For the Record. For the Record.
Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. Today is Wednesday, the 17th day of July, 2017. I trust that everyone had a peaceful, restful, enjoyable evening. Those of you who are celebrating a birthday today, I want to wish you a happy birthday. If you celebrated one a few days ago, a belated happy birthday as well. Those of you who have lost loved ones, we send you our sincerest condolences and hope and trust that your faith will help to carry you through these very challenging times. Those of you who are on the roads of the Cayman Islands, whether you're a pedestrian, whether you're a cyclist, or if you're operating any type of motorized vehicle on the roads of the Cayman Islands, we urge you to be extremely careful, ensure that you observe the rules of the road, and always remember that the life you save may be your own. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. As you know, For the Record is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orrett Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7:30 a.m. until 10 a.m. Our phone lines are always open. There is always someone there waiting to take your calls. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be that beautiful radio voice of Miss Susan Watson. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flo. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. If you don't like to talk on the telephone, email us at For the Record. That is one word, For the Record, at candw.ky. WhatsApp us on 925-3261, where we encourage you to send us a text message or leave us a voice note, the contents of which will be played during the course of the show. And of course, you can follow us on YouTube simply by subscribing to Radio Cayman live stream. This morning, it is my pleasure to have in the studio with me Dr. Steve McFeel and Miss Theresa Pitcairn. We also expect to have the former Speaker, Honorable Mary Lawrence, with us. She will join us probably after the 8 o'clock news this morning, and we're going to continue our discussion on Cayman's constitutional history. Today, the main focus will be on amendments to the Constitution, procedures for the amendment, procedures for amending our Constitution. attempts that have been made before to amend our Constitution, and as well as the current issues surrounding the amendment of the Cayman Islands Constitution Order 2009 as well. So with that preview of today's show, I want to say good morning to Ms. Teresa Pitcairn and Dr. Steve Macfield. Lady and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC. Good morning, Dr. Steve. And whenever Miss Mira comes in, I'll give her a big hug and tell her good morning. So thank you very much for having me on the show today. I have a bit of a bronchitis, so if my voice is not what it should be, and if I start to cough a little bit, I'll ask that you please excuse me. But it is a pleasure to be here, and thank you so very much, and indeed our audience, for inviting us into their homes, and as you always say, into their cars as they traverse on their way to work.
Okay.
Good morning. Mr. For the Record. Good morning, Ms. Teresa. And good morning to all the people in your For the Record land, locally and far away. I know you have a lot of fans in North and South America and in parts of the Caribbean, even Europe. I understand that you have listeners. Thank you for inviting us back onto your show. It was a pleasure being here the last time with all the distinguished people. Honorable Dr. Mary Lawrence, President Roy Bodden, and Mr. Gilbert McLean, Honorable Gilbert McLean.
Certainly.
And it was a pleasure. I got a lot of feedback.
Kurt Tibbetts as well.
Yes, the Honorable Kurt Tibbetts. And I heard a lot of feedback about it, and people were telling me that they didn't know that much about their country until we had that roundtable discussion. And I think that it was well received, and I thank Mr. Alfonso Wright for putting this on, because it was his thing, and we hope that we're able to continue informing our people of the political, historical, constitutional position that we're in, and where we are going down that constitutional road.
Certainly. You have the mic. Continue, Doc.
So it was very interesting to see that I was speaking to some people, and I was at Renee Barnes's place on Saturday. Yeah.
Miss Palm's birthday. I want to wish her a belated happy birthday to Miss Pamela Rocket as well.
Yes, and we were discussing some of the things that we had discussed on the show there, and it was very interesting how the evening went so fast. When I got there around 6:45, and the discussion started, and some of my cousins were there, including the Godfrey brothers, Nicholson and Niels. And when
troublesome Niels.
yes. And when we looked at our watch, it was near 11 o'clock. I mean, just talking, and your friend was there, Joellen.
Okay, yes.
She was there as well.
Yes.
And it was a very good evening. And it seems to me now that we've become more aware of who we are, where we came from, and where we are going. And that is something that motivates me, because I was very pessimistic that we took our culture, our history, and our political advancement lightly, and some people did not seem to care, but now I see that there's a caring and also sharing of our efforts, and it's when you look at us as a people who, they say that time forgot, to have gotten here to this place so quickly within 50 years, it's an amazing. When other societies took 4,000 years and 2,000 years, and the great America took over 400 years to get where to come into the 21st century. We did it in such a short time, and to me that is an indication that we can do it if we want to do it, and that should set the stage for a discussion this morning of the some of the things I want to discuss, and that is political changes, political amendments that I understand that are coming through the pipeline. And you remember we had the gentleman here from the Constitutional
Mr.
Commission.
Von Carter,
Mr.
yeah.
Von Carter, and he didn't help us that much because he didn't know much about the new amendments that are coming. But there are some amendments coming, the Constitution. Some of them, probably most of them, I would agree on, and they're needed, and perhaps we needed even to go deeper, and just major cosmetic changes. We need some significant changes to put us in the driver's seat, so that we can make decisions that affect our future, instead of having our future being affected and in the hands of some British official and sitting in London in some offices 5,000 or 6,000 miles away who do not even know where we are. I was reading an article some time ago where someone went to the Foreign Commerce Office, was asking them about the overseas territories, and some of the people there who administer us didn't even know where the overseas territories were and didn't know the names of them. They knew where they were, but they didn't know the names of them. So with that I would ask Miss welcome Teresa back.
Yes.
She's been traveling. She's
yes. World traveler.
World traveler.
As them old people in Bontanas would say, I wish I would hush about that.
Yes. And I would also like to and this is because Teresa's here also, to congratulate her kids for their efforts in the Island Games. And in the Island Games, and the other Caymanian kids as well. It goes to show that we can do it. That we, in my generation, we went out and we didn't go to the Island Games, but we went out into the world shipping, and we did the work that we were asked to do successfully. And by the way, I was reading some of these excerpts that you can now recover. You can now obtain from the archives. They're called the Cayman Islands Monthly Political Reports, Secret and Confidential. And I was looking at the reports between 1963 to 1965, and it was talking about how the national bulk carriers were complaining that the quality of men that they were sending back in the 1964-65 area were not as good as those that came in the 1950s and 40s.
Okay.
And that if they didn't send better men, they were going to start shipping from other jurisdictions.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
And do you have any view in terms of why that the change in the quality in at that time?
Well, I guess it's because most of the good genes had been all away, and I guess a lot of the people who came in the national bulk carriers after the rush in the 1940s and 50s were some people who had gained Caymanian status, and they were not like the old Caymanian seamen, like Mr. Green and all of those men who left from the eastern districts and the West Bay. There were lesser men then, and most of them were younger boys who actually didn't care about the jobs that they were responsible for,
and maybe also did not have that experience. Yes. In terms of seamanship before.
Yes.
Especially coming right out of school.
Yes.
And going there. So unless they had been involved in the Sea Scouts,
yes.
where they would have gotten that experience.
Yes.
Otherwise, if you're just coming straight out of school, and that would have been why many of them, when they started in the galley as opposed to on deck as well, because they didn't have that experience on deck.
That's right.
And then transitioned later on to becoming able-bodied seamen and ordinary seamen on deck after leaving the galley as well.
Well, for instance, I was speaking to the Honorable Kirk Tibbetts' brother.
He's now
the president of the Seafarers Association, and he was telling me that his father, who became a captain on one of those large ships that ran all around the world, started in the galley started on the lowest thing you could become, the lowest thing you could become on a ship, serving the men, cleaning up the galley, and taking orders from all of those men who were shouting at you for full houses and stuff like that to bring them their food. and they. But I think those people who went afterwards went with some sort of attitude that they wanted to start from the top, and they were not as hardworking, and the National Bulk Carriers they were very insolent, and they sort of disorderly, and they threatened that they were going to recruit from someplace else, and the local union was saying that they were going to start obtaining men with better quality than quantity to send out to national bulk.
Now that phrase that you used, them Caymanian seamen at the time, the younger ones being insolent, what we also have to bear in mind that many of them sailed on ships where you had Estonian captains from Western and Eastern Europe who were extremely prejudiced as well. Yes. And our Caymanian men would not take any foolishness, from them when it came to being prejudiced. They either sent home and got some Johnson's baby powder, some courage, and put it on them, or in many instances they would physically defend themselves, and of course they end up getting fired. Sometimes, they would not hesitate to pay them off in Europe and fly them home as well. But there are two sides to that story as well. Many seamen will tell you some of the captains and chief mates and chief engineers that they had to work under, that they encountered, were extremely, extremely prejudiced as
racist.
Well. Yes,
and that reminds me of a story I heard about a captain. Some of those young men had gotten some of those Johnson baby powder, Mr. Hurry, and had taken it back. And when he went out his cabin, they put it all on his bed and everything, and he wouldn't come out. He wouldn't come out. He didn't know what was wrong because it was a mystery. You can't see anything, but he wouldn't come out of his cabin, and that was the place it was.
Okay, we have to take a commercial break, folks. Please stay tuned. The conversation with Dr. Steve Macfield and Ms. Teresa Pitcairn will continue after this short commercial break.
The Cayman Islands boasts of a long, colorful, and rich history. In tribute to our roots, Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands, is pleased to bring you the Historical Vignette Series, sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs. The Cayman Islands, He hath founded it upon the seas.
On January the 18th, 1962, the Assembly of the Cayman Islands voted unanimously to continue their present association with Her Majesty's government in the United Kingdom. Leading the change for remaining a British Crown colony was Dr. Roy McTaggart, the 9th national hero of the Cayman Islands. Opposed to aligning with Jamaica, Dr. Roy canvassed the Cayman Islands and received more than 3,000 signatures in support of remaining with Britain. MLAs from the sister islands were equally vocal in their support of being tied to Britain in the strongest possible terms, with a signed petition of 79% of the registered voters stating if Grand Cayman chose to remain with an independent Jamaica, the sister islands would seek separate crown colony status under Britain.
Radio Cayman's historical facts vignettes are proudly brought to you by Cayman National, with branches on all 3 Cayman Islands. Visit Cayman National Bank today for all of your financial needs.
When you need stability, think Business of the Year.
Considering a new career opportunity, think Best Place to Work.
When dependability matters, think Outstanding Workforce.
In need of a reliable financial partner? Think Bank of the Year.
When you seek excellence, think Cayman National.
No matter how many accomplishments we achieve, we always set the bar higher. That's why we are the most awarded bank in Cayman, and we are proud to be your
2018 Bank of the Year.
They say cleaning your house never killed anyone, but why take chances? Spend your time doing what you love and leave the rest to Roper's Janitorial. Complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential with 24-hour emergency service. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511. Email janitorial@ropers.ky. take back your life and get the job done right the first time. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511.
I just love the warm ocean air.
Yeah? Your car doesn't.
What you mean?
Looks like salt air is eating your bumper alive.
Stop rust before it starts with Z-Bot Rust Protection from Vance Motors. The extreme heat, salt spray, and wet tropical weather can damage your vehicle and greatly decrease its value. But Z-Bot's patented formula protects your car's metal seams, joints, and other hidden areas. There's no better rust protection out there than Z-Bot. So book today and keep the rust away. Call or visit Vance Motors Body Shop on Walkers Road. Your only authorized Z-Bot service in Cayman is now
Marine,
available
customers
at Vance
often
Motors.
ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore.
Sometimes having a middleman is not a bad thing, especially when it comes to insurance. Do you know that when it comes to cost, ease, speed, and peace of mind, insurance brokers ranked higher than when customers buy direct? So, for all your insurance needs, call Fidelity Insurance. We're the middleman you want. Call us today at 949-7822. Fidelity. We're good for you.
There are plenty of reasons to be a Logic customer. There's lightning-fast internet connectivity. There's the great overall customer experience. And now, you can improve your Wi-Fi connectivity with Logic Boost Wi-Fi for free. With Boost, you can extend your freedom to stream, game, and download seamlessly anywhere in your home, like your patio or your underground lair if you have one. Sign up now for any Logic Bundle package and get free Boost Wi-Fi for a limited time. Visit logic.ky for details.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, we have Ms. Teresa Pitcairn, Dr. Steve MacPhail. We're talking about the Constitution of the Cayman Islands, not only the 2009 Constitution, which is our current one, but also our previous constitutions as well. And we're going to start off by talking a little bit about the history of our constitutions as well. And, of course, on the two shows that we had in terms of celebrating 60 years of constitutional advancement in the Cayman Islands, you heard, Dr. Steve MacPhail, who voiced his opinion as to what he believed was the first constitution that the Cayman Islands had, even though it wasn't called that. But that law in 1832, that set out how the justices and
the
vestrymen would conduct their business.
It was passed on the 2nd of January, 1832, after the first meeting after they had got elected on the 10th of January, 1831. And the reason why it did not have validity legally and historically is because our legislature was illegal. We had formed an illegal legislature, taking power upon ourselves to form a bicameral legislature and form form laws. Now, those laws, as we have stated, that we made in those days were only ratified in 1863 by the 1863 Caymanian Act, because they had to ratify them, otherwise they would have to deal with the Caymanian men who took upon themselves to break away from the administration of the governor of Jamaica and form their own legislature. They would have to have some sort of trial with them. And so what the British government did, and under the 1863 Act, they ratified all that they had done, all the laws that he had passed up until that time, and then started from then giving the Jamaica legislature power to make laws for the peace, order, and good governance of Jamaica. In other words, giving the legislature of Jamaica and the governor to administer Cayman.
Right.
To administer Cayman.
As if it was a part.
As if it was a part of Jamaica.
Yeah. And then, of course, after the collapse of the Federation of the West Indies, then they had to craft a constitution for us as well. So we had one in 1958, 59.
Well, that's Mr. For record, the 1962 collapse of the Federation should have been the beginning of decolonization for us and the overseas territories, but it became worse. Because the 1962 West Indies Act conferred power upon Her Majesty the Queen to provide for the government of the colonial territories, now the overseas territories. Yes. So it gave, because we were never in that position before. Because remember now, the 1963 Act gave Jamaica the right to make law for the peace, order, and good governance of Cayman Islands.
Yeah, the 1863.
1863. Yeah. It was the 1962 Act that then transfer that power to Her Majesty. Yes. And out of that power comes the nuclear option. Right. The Section 125 that overrides everything that we can do in Cayman Islands is subject to the power of the men and women in Westminster.
Okay, Ms. T?
Right, yeah. So, and this is a concern that I had, which is why I spent, when we decided to pursue this topic, I kept searching for documentation which would actually outline the broad parameters that the UK have when they're deciding to pass law, order in council for us. And they say that we have a constitution, and they say that we pretty much run our own show, which is, as we all know, is not quite accurate. My worry is that because you don't have a system of rules or doctrines which actually state the circumstances under which the UK can actually interfere with our legislation or interfere with what we do here outside of the nuclear option, that's a problem. And perhaps, and I say this in the context of our economy that is growing, and the issues the challenges that we have with immigration, the challenges we may have with voting and so on, precisely because of the way the community is evolving. We need to have the UK set out the circumstances under which they can actually intervene, because you run the risk of them legislating for us ad nauseum. So, unless, for example, there are circumstances when there's a clear breakdown with respect to our laws, for example, we want to know for sure the circumstances when the UK will be authorized to intervene with our local.
Okay. Yeah. Now, what I was trying to get at there is in tracing the Constitution. So we ended up in 1958, 59. Yeah. Then we ended up in 1972. And then we had that Constitution until 2009.
That's right.
But the whole impetus for changes in those constitutions were always came mainly from the United Kingdom in terms of the convenience of wanting to ensure that these changes take place. It was always for one reason or another why that was done. But for instance, in modern day, after the white paper Partnership for Progress and Prosperity, they wanted us to have modern constitutions, but in that modern constitution, what they wanted was to ensure that we all had a Bill of Rights enshrined in legislation, and their insistence was that a Bill of Rights not be separate legislation, but enshrined in our Constitution as well. And we see that over and over and over in all of the negotiations, if we can call them that took place in the various overseas territories, that was part and parcel of what they wanted. So that we want to take a look at that. When we return, from the news, we want to look at the impetus. We want to talk a little bit. I'm reading an article here, and I read it earlier in relation to for example, in 1967, when there were proposals for constitutional changes, what they were, and what the people's reaction to those changes were as well. We have to go to the 8 o'clock news. We reached the top of the hour. When we return, hopefully by then, the Honourable Mayor Lawrence will join us, and we will continue this conversation in a very structured way so that you, our listening and viewing audience, can follow it about constitutional changes in the Cayman Islands, how they came about, what were the reasons for it, what were the results. Stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. And studio time now by Price Right is 7:59.
Price Right is Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore, making your dollar go further with huge savings and no membership fees. Get more of the things you use every day at the right price. But it's not just grocery and health and beauty. Price Right has a full range of products from office to automotive, patio furnishings to kitchen appliances, and even electronics. And since warehouse prices mean savings for you, everything is priced right at Price Right, Grand Cayman's warehouse shopping superstore.
The voice of the Cayman Islands.
89.9 FM in Grand Cayman and 93.9 FM in Cayman Brac and Little Cayman.
Silver wings shining in the sunlight.
Radio Cayman.
Access. Information. Your community. News and information. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
With your latest news, I'm Carsley Fuller. The Cayman Islands Law Reform Commission is calling for stakeholder and public comment on legislation focusing on the issue of bullying in Cayman schools. Radio Cayman's April Cummings has more.
The Law Reform Commission says that the Draft Education Amendment Bill 2019 and the Draft Anti-Bullying Schools Regulations have been formulated in response to comments received since the publication of the Commission's issues paper titled Bullying, Legislation, Policy, or Both. The focus of the paper was to determine whether a comprehensive strategy for addressing the incidence of bullying should be grounded in legislation, formulating policies, or a combination of both. The proposed legislation, which is formulated to complement a national policy on bullying, includes provisions which, for example, cite that every school should have an anti-bullying policy, identifying provisions to be included in the policy, and holds the school leader responsible for implementation and oversight of the legislation and any policies made to address bullying. The legislation also would require some reporting responsibilities. For example, school staff need to report incidents of bullying or retaliation to school leadership in a prompt fashion. It also would require the school leader to communicate the results of investigations to the person who made the report so that they can stay abreast of what's happening. Other facets include a reporting schedule and provision for penalties. April Cummings, Radio Cayman News.
Stakeholders and members of the general public are invited to provide their comments. You can find the legislation at lrc.gov.ky or at gov.ky. You can also collect a copy from the offices of the Commission. Submissions should be handed in by September 16th. And the National Trust is helping to keep young hands busy this summer with culinary classes for kids at Mission House. The focus, learning to make traditional Caymanian sweet treats.
We're giving the youngsters an opportunity to learn about the heritage of the Cayman Islands, whether they may be born Caymanians or residents or visitors who want to avail themselves of some of the recipes and some of the methods that we would have used to cook in yesteryear. The Mission House would be the perfect place to do that.
Historic Programs Manager Stuart Wilson.
The cooking classes are a great way for them to appreciate the history of the Cayman Islands in a way that's very practical. You can touch, see, and feel things, but to taste things.
You can find out more by contacting the National Trust. Now with the check of international news, here's the BBC, which will take us out of the newscast. I'm Carsley Fuller from Radio Cayman's newsroom.
BBC News with Jerry Smith. Sudan's military rulers have reached a deal with the opposition aimed at forming a power-sharing government and ending months of unrest. The political agreement sets out 3 years of joint governance that will culminate in a general election. A Swedish aid agency working in Afghanistan says the Taliban have forced more than 40 health facilities to shut down in Wardak province, affecting tens of thousands of people. The Swedish Committee for Afghanistan said denying health services to people was against international humanitarian law. A court in Turkey has acquitted 2 human rights activists and a writer who are facing terrorism offences after they guest-edited a Kurdish newspaper. The Turkish authorities had accused Erol Önderoğlu, the Turkey representative of Reporters Without Borders, and the other 2 defendants of making terrorist propaganda in support of Kurdish militants. The World Health Organization has begun a meeting to assess whether the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo now constitutes an international public health emergency. It follows the discovery of a case in the eastern city of Goma. The International Court of Justice will rule shortly in a case brought by India to try to save a retired Navy officer who's on death row in Pakistan. Kulbhushan Yadav was arrested in Balochistan province in 2016 on charges of espionage and sabotage. The European Commission has opened an investigation into whether Amazon has breached EU competition rules. The Commission will investigate claims that the company misused the data of independent sellers who use its site to help its own retail business. And the Italian writer Andrea Camilleri has died at the age of 93 after a month in hospital following a cardiac arrest. BBC News.
Access. Information. What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
What do we love more than summertime? Extra flights between Cayman and Jamaica with Cayman Airways, of course. Cayman Airways has added extra flights weekly for travel between Grand Cayman and Kingston this July and August. Visit family and friends in Jamaica or send for them to visit you in Cayman. But hurry, these extra seats will sell out fast, so book yours today. Remember now, check-in time is 2 hours before departure. Call Cayman Airways reservations on 949-2311. Contact a travel agent or book online at CaymanAirways.com.
Tune in to Radio Cayman every morning at 7:20 a.m. for your daily weather update. Proudly brought to you by Miller's Plumbing and Accessories. With over 47 years of experience, they'll get the job done for you on time. Free estimate. Miller's Plumbing and Accessories. Call them at 949-4709 for a free estimate.
The Weather Report is proudly sponsored by Super Stitch Sewing and Fabric Center, your one-stop household store at 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best prices in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky. New stock has just arrived at Super Stitch. Now don't take my word for it. Drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Super Stitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Super Stitch, 39 Pasador Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Good morning. Time now for the latest weather report. Synopsis indicate isolated showers expected as a tropical wave moves west over the Western Caribbean. Radar images show isolated showers west of Grand Cayman moving west. Now the forecast for the Cayman Islands for today and tonight, calling for partly cloudy skies with a 30% chance of showers. Temperatures will be in the low 90s today and fall to the upper 70s tonight. Your winds will be east to northeast at 5 to 10 knots, and seas will be slight to moderate with wave heights of 2 to 4 feet. We're presently at a low tide, and the next high tide will be this morning at 9:32, low tide this afternoon at 3:48, and a high tide again tonight at 10:43. Sunset 7:05, sunrise 5:58, and the outlook is calling for partly cloudy skies with light easterly winds and slight seas through Friday morning.
Superstitch Sewing and Fabric Center was the proud sponsor of the Weather Report, your one-stop shop for all of your household items, craft items, jewelry, beads, and decorations, and much more. Call Superstitch at 949-2833 or email customer care at superstitch.com.ky. New stock has just arrived at Superstitch. Now don't take my word for it. Drop by and see for yourself. Fresh off the boat, we have loads of fabric, vinyl upholstery fabric, fabric for cushions, outdoor fabrics, and dress fabric. That's not all. Superstitch has sewing accessories and craft items. Included in the new shipment, you will find sheets, comforters, throw pillows, bath mats, rugs, and curtains for every room in your home. Superstitch, 39 Pasadora Place, Smith Road. Still offering the best price in town. Call 949-2833 or go to superstitch.com.ky.
Good morning once again, and looking at Godfrey Nixon Way and Eastern Avenue, traffic flowing moderately and traffic flowing pretty good coming from the Westway four-way stop. Steady bit of flowing traffic on Shamrock Road and Linford Pearson Highway. Moderate flow of traffic on Godfrey Nixon Way, and on Owen Roberts Drive, traffic is light to moderate. Busy traffic on Crew Road, some slight delays expected, and traffic moderate coming off of Bobby Thompson Way. And on Hunter Avenue and Thomas Russell Way, traffic is flowing moderately. If you've seen accidents or incidents on Cayman's roads, give us a call here at Radio Cayman, 949-6990. Have a good morning and fasten your seatbelt.
Always ensure that food preparation utensils are washed with a strong detergent and rinsed in hot water in the event that they have made contact with flood water. Boil silverware for 10 minutes and immerse glass, porcelain, china, and plastic items in a solution of hot water and 10% chlorine bleach before use. For more post-hurricane food safety tips, visit DEH website at deh.gov.ky.
At Logic, we make things better for our customers. It's why we're offering free Boost Wi-Fi. With Boost, you get improved Wi-Fi connectivity everywhere in your home, so there's no more dead zones. The only people we're not making this better for is parents. Because now with seamless Wi-Fi in every room in your home, go to your room isn't really the punishment it used to be. Sorry about that. Sign up now for any Logic Bundle package and get free Boost Wi-Fi for a limited time. Visit logic.ky for details.
Radio Cayman 3 to 6 mix on the weekdays. Brought to you by
Cayman Insurance Center, serving the community for 45 years. Don't take chances with your family's future. Call Denise Brown at 814-7229 or Michael Webster at 925-5433. Fitness Plus and Train with Dre. Getting in shape has never been easier with the mobile fitness app by Train with Dre and the new Eco Power Sport Art equipment.
Every day.
All the time.
Visit fitnessplus.com for more information. And City Walk, serving Chinese, Japanese, and Filipino dishes until 11 p.m. each night. East meets West at City Walk. Dine in, take out, or order online. See their full menu at citywalk.ky. Call 947-9965.
Ultimate Party Show in the afternoon. Radio Cayman Super Jam.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Mr. Yusuf Pitker and Dr. Steve McField. We're talking about Cayman Islands Constitution, history of it, various amendments to our Constitution as well, and that discussion will also include the current proposals for amending our Constitution as well. We will be joined by the Honourable Mayor Lawrence later on. She's on her way here. Of course, traffic is a little bit slow because of some road work that is being done in the eastern part of Georgetown as well. Before I get back to our substantive topic this morning, one of our listeners has written to me, and I'm going to just mention this. I'm going to mention it and put an appeal out there for any assistance that can be given. The writer says that we have 5 or 6 young ladies out there trying to make a positive difference in the community. And they point out that the Miss Teen pageant Right now, time is the Miss Teen pageant is approaching, and time is running out because of sponsorship. Some of these young ladies need sponsorship for them to be able to participate, and anyone out there who can find it in their hearts to assist these young ladies, you're welcome, and you're being asked to do so. You can contact Miss Scott on 925-5039 if you want to assist the contestants for the Miss Teen pageant. 5 or 6 of them are looking for sponsorship. Time is running out, and we always talk about the future of the Cayman Islands being in our young people. Here's an opportunity for you to help them out. So if you're interested in sponsoring them, then please contact Miss Scott at 925-5039 for your assistance. The lines are open to talk about constitutional issues. We're restricting the discussion this morning to constitutional issues, in particular changes to our Constitution. We have a caller, so let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, O.C., and your panel.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Lord. I have a question. If the Chief Justice erred in making his decision that was opposite of the Constitution, and I thought that was a sacred entity, especially all the trouble that it went through, that those members that were on the board that dealt with the Constitution in UK or wherever, NGO and members, all that were all involved, and it was voted on by a referendum. That was why I voted for the Constitution to accept it, although I did not agree with the human rights aspect of it, because I feel that we were the freest country in the world, and now I think we got nothing but bondage. I knew that was coming if we accepted that. Nevertheless, our parent, our mother country, forced us to add that into the Constitution, and I understand we had to accept that. But I think that is being abused in every aspect of life. Almost all you can hear now is against the human rights aspect of the Constitution. But this is my point. If the Chief Justice erred in his interpretation of trying to decide that there was discrimination against one or two people in this world, all the other majority of people that voted for this and accepted the Constitution the way it is or was have been ignored. So what's happened to the rights of all the other people? If they want to change it now to accept some abomination which is so ungodly, it's not even decent to talk about it, I must admit. And why cannot the Legislative Assembly reinstate what was there? If he erred, do they not have the right to reinstate it how it was without having to go through all the repercussions that seemingly the whole world is trying to ram down our throat about an abomination that we will live to regret the rest of our lives?
Well, listen, caller, let me just say to you that the answer to your question lies in our Constitution. Although a lot of people don't like it, and some people say they didn't vote for it, but it's still a good document. Just let me read what Section 5 says, okay? It says, subject to this section, the existing laws shall have effect on and after the appointed day, as if they had been made in pursuance of the Constitution and shall be read and construed with such modifications, adaptations, qualifications, and exceptions as may be necessary to bring them into conformity with the Constitution. Suppose that that's what the Chief Justice did.
Mm-hmm. So put that in plain language for us now, Doc. What section
it means that the Chief Justice can say that the marriage law or whatever it was not adopt. It could adopt. It should be adopted to read with the Bill of Rights, and that it should be modified to confer with the Bill of Rights. But listen to what subsection 5.2 says: the legislature may by law make such amendments to any existing laws as appears to it to be necessary or expedient for bringing that law into conformity with the Constitution, or otherwise for giving effect to the Constitution, and any existing law shall have effect accordingly from such day, not being earlier than the appointed day as may be specified in the law made by the legislature. So it's for the legislature, not the Chief Justice, to say. The Chief Justice can declare that the law does not has to be adopted to meet the requirements of the Constitution, but it's for the legislature to make that adaptation. It's for the legislature to make that change.
But Doc, in the legislature making those changes, they still have to ensure that it is in conformity with the Bill of Rights, with the Constitution. If not, then it can still, unchallenged, can still be struck down again.
Well, just go
because
back.
Because that is what, isn't that what our politicians felt comfortable about the fact that we had, in our marriage law, we had a clear definition that marriage was between one man and one woman.
Yes.
And they thought that they were safe in having that there, that despite what was in the Constitution, that what was in our marriage law was safe and sound. But now what it is saying is that all laws must be in conformity with the Constitution. Isn't that
Section
so?
16 of the discriminatory section. Section 16 gives exemption to certain things not to be conformed with the Bill of Rights.
Okay.
Among them are, and listen to this, subsection 1 shall not apply to any law so far as that law makes provision. Subsection 1 is the discriminatory section. Listen to what it says. For the application in the case of persons of any such description of grounds as in mentioned in subsection 2, or for persons connected with such persons of the law with respect to adoption, marriage, divorce, burial, devolution of property on death, or other like matters, that is the personal law applicable to persons of that description. So what the Constitution says is that marriage is exempted from the Bill of Rights.
Okay. Because it specifically
says that.
Okay. Now to the caller's question, and caller, you still there? I trust.
Yes, I'm here.
To the caller's question, I believe you want to know now, caller, depending on the result of the appeal that was submitted, if the appeal finds that the Chief Justice was correct in his ruling, where do we go from there? Is that your concern?
Well, I still feel that if the Legislative Assembly is the one that has the right to make any change, why can it not revert back as it was, regardless of what the Chief Justice might have felt was right or wrong?
Exactly, sir. That is how I read the Constitution. Also, the Chief Justice can make man-made law, but he cannot make constitutional law. And the problem that we'll have is the legislature then will make a law to override what the Chief Justice has done, and we'll be back where we were to square one again.
And tell me something. Suppose someone wants to come up now with another idea, some other freak idea. Does that mean because they're a human being that they must be recognized and not discriminated against, regardless of how ridiculous their proposal could be?
Well, that's the far-reaching consequences if the Chief Justice position would be
prevailed. If that prevailed, yeah.
Well, we're in a bad shape, if you ask me.
Well, Mr. Borden, it's up to our legislators. Our legislators have to be strong, they have to be astute, and they have to be learned, and they have to be modernized, because if you can't leave it to how it was with people who cannot read the Constitution, and if they read it, they don't understand it, and if they understand it, they don't want to abide by it. That's the problem that we have in the country right now.
Okay.
Well, I am against anything pertaining other than what the Bible allows. And I feel that we should go back to what the Legislative Assembly should go back to it. I don't think that going to the appeal court, hopefully they're honest and will do make a fair decision and favorable decision. But if it goes beyond, if it's not, and it goes beyond that, I think we run less chances of other people outside of the country dealing with this, knowing how the whole world seemingly is going. But we don't necessarily have to follow the rest of the world in doing something that's wrong, that we believe is morally wrong.
And may I tell you, and may I interrupt, Mr. Borden? We already have court cases, precedents in the European courts that says that marriage is not a civil right. That same-sex marriage is not a civil right.
So how can they get around all of this and call it because of discrimination? You want to tell me if a human being wants to find any excuse that could blame discrimination, on discrimination, that we have to bow to that, the Legislative Assembly has to bow to that and give them leeway to have their right?
Well,
something's got to be wrong with this.
It's our legislature now that the ball is in their court, and we'll see what they will do.
Caller, I want to thank you very much for that. And just to say, I think we expect that decision sometime next month. Is it month of August?
That's what I heard.
From the Court of Appeal?
Yes, that's what I heard. On their next sitting.
Which brings us to one of the points that we were making earlier. This whole idea of partnership for progress and prosperity, and the modernization of the constitutions of the overseas territories. UK used a carrot and a stick approach. The UK knew that there were certain political aspirations that politicians and the people of the overseas territories had. And they also knew that there were certain international obligations and in many instances European obligations that the United Kingdom had as well. That is why they were prepared to dangle the political niceties to us, but at the same time ensuring that we had a Bill of Rights enshrined in our legislation. Now, personally, I have absolutely nothing against having a Bill of Rights, because we have to ensure that a people is protected from some of the potential abuses of our government. So a Bill of Rights is necessary. And I would also point out that we would not have ended up with a 2009 Constitution if we did not have a Bill of Rights in it. Bear in mind that there were certain provisions in terms of the Bill of Rights that were suspended. They weren't brought into force until 2013, I believe it was. I'll look up the dates again. But the Bill of Rights, part of it, wasn't brought into effect. One of the reasons for that being that we also had to ensure that our legislation was compatible with the Bill of Rights, and given an opportunity to make amendments to those legislation to ensure that happened as well. I believe we have another caller. Let's see if we can take that caller before we go to a commercial break. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Orrett Connor.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Okay, and good morning to Dr. Markeel and Ms. Sitcon.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, Mr. Borden, if you are still listening, sir, I just have to tell you, you are an intelligent man. Thank you very much.
Okay, that's it, caller. Okay, I want to thank that caller. We'll take a commercial break. When we return, I want to share with you discussion, report on a meeting that took place in Georgetown in 1967 in relation to proposals for the amendment of our Constitution. These are more of a political nature, but again, it will prove one point in terms of where did the impetus come from for changes at that time. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly.
They say cleaning your house never killed anyone, but why take chances? Spend your time doing what you love and leave the rest to Roper's Janitorial. Complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential with 24-hour emergency service. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511. Email janitorial@ropers.ky. Take back your life and get the job done right the first time. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511.
Sometimes things just don't go as planned. That's why you need Contractors All Risk Insurance from Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Ensure you're covered in the event of property damage and third-party injury or damage claims during your construction projects. And with Fidelity Insurance Brokers, you can be sure you are getting competitive pricing and superior customer service. Call us today for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
I just love the warm ocean air.
Yeah? Your car doesn't.
What you mean?
Looks like salt air is eating your bump alive.
Stop rust before it starts with Z-Bot Rust Protection from Vant Motors. The extreme heat, salt spray, and wet tropical weather can damage your vehicle and greatly decrease its value. But Z-Bot's patented formula protects your car's metal seams, joints, and other hidden areas. There's no better rust protection out there than Z-Bot. So book today and keep the rust away. Call or visit Vant Motors Body Shop on Walker's Road. Your only authorized Z-Bot service in Cayman is now available at Vant Motors.
K-Man is going to Carfesta 2019 this summer. Get a sneak peek preview of all performances we'll be doing in Trinidad. 2 weekends only at the Hartwell Theatre. Music and dance shows on Saturday the 20th of July and Sunday the 21st of July. The touching play, Downside Up, written by Frank McPhail on Saturday, July 27th and Sunday, July 28th. Tickets are just $25 per person per show. Purchase at Foster's Airport and Strand, Funky Tangs, Healthcare Pharmacy Grand Harbor, the CNCF office, and online at eventpro.ky.
System 1 loaded.
1-800-534-8255. What is on your mind when it comes to the government, independence, and the opposition? Issues that matter to you. 1-800-534-8255. Waiting to hear from you. For the Record.
This is For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve Macfield, Ms. Teresa Pitcairn, and we will be joined by the Honorable Mayor Lawrence when she's able to get here, once she gets through that traffic that is on the roads as well. I promised that I would share with you, and this is taken, I actually pulled this off the Constitutional Commission's website, and it is from an article in the Caymanian Compass. 50 years ago, constitution proposals presented to district. It says in the March 8th, 1967 edition of the Caymanian Weekly, a precursor to the Caymanian Compass, news from Georgetown, including, quote, at a public meeting in the town hall, Georgetown, on March 2nd, Miss Annie H. Borden, that's Anna Hulda Borden, and Mr. A.B. Bush, Alan Berkeley Bush, outlined to the constituents of Georgetown the proposals agreed upon by the majority of elected members of the Legislative Assembly for an advancement in constitutional status for the Cayman Islands, right? Bear in mind, what it says here is that it was a proposal agreed upon by the majority of the elected members of the Legislative Assembly for an advance in the constitutional status of the Cayman Islands. Briefly, these are: the number of elected members of the legislature should be increased from 12 to 14, and there shall be no nominated members. An Attorney General shall be appointed in order to divide the duties of the government's legal advisor from the courts. An independent speaker from outside the legislature shall be appointed to replace the president, His Honor the Administrator. The composition of the Executive Council shall be changed so that there shall be 5 elected members instead of 3 and no nominated members. In addition, the 5 elected members shall be given executive authority, thus becoming the member responsible for a specified portfolio, for example, agriculture and natural resources. The Executive Council would continue to bear collective responsibility for the actions of its individual members, working with the heads of their respective government departments. Then it goes on to say that Ms. Borden and Mr. Bush stated that they had opposed any changes such as envisaged in these proposals because they had won their seats in a campaign during which they clearly stated that they were not in favor of constitutional change, taxation, or gambling casinos. They personally had not changed their minds in any way, but wanted to hear the will of the people of Georgetown on the important issue. After the 2 representatives have spoken, Mr. Bush asked if anyone also present would care to express their views. Nurse Beulah McLaughlin, Dr. Ari McTaggart, and Mr. E.O. Panton, Captain Theo Borden, and several others strongly opposed any constitutional changes, and several questions were asked and answered. No person present elected to speak in favor of the proposals. No person present elected to speak in favor of the proposals, and it appeared that the majority of the audience, approximately 150, were in support of the stance which Ms. Borden and Mr. Bush were taking. The main grounds for the objections appeared to be the cost involved. The transfer of power from the administrator to persons at present unnamed who may be unfit and incapable of holding and using executive power, and this instability in the flow of investment, etc., into the islands, which may occur as a result of any form of internal self-government. There was a strong urge for a law to be introduced in order that a referendum on the issue might be held, in which every voter would have an opportunity to express his or her views, that the opinion of the majority might be made known. The meeting concluded with the decision that a petition against any changes in Constitution should be drawn up and circulated throughout the islands before the next meeting of the Legislative Assembly in the same issue. So that was basically it. So we see several issues here. One, call for a petition to have a referendum. We see the inherent distrust of our own Caymanian people to be able to wield authority and power as a speaker. They didn't trust their own people to do that as well. But at the same time, we saw that the majority of members of the Legislative Assembly agreed to these proposed changes in our legislature as well. Any comments from either of you in this regard? Doc?
Well, one of the things that brought in the proposal for an Attorney General to advise the government, it was because at that time the government was being advised by who? No person other than the Grand Court Judge,
yes,
who was also the government advisor who sat on the case that he advised the government on. And so that's the reasons why. But it goes to show you that even when we had the chance, when a majority of the people want political advancement in the Constitution, that they didn't, people were opposed to it. So it's our fault that we find ourselves in this position today, where the United Kingdom had this overreach, which is completely wrong, and which caused problems in our constitutional affairs, and it seems to me that what we did is that we gave the Crown authority that it didn't have, and we increased the authority that it did have, and we rejected, as you said, for people to be leading the country because we didn't trust each other. And if you notice, the whole thing, the whole debates was about commerce, and not about the majority of the people living in the territory, and their political and social and constitutional life that would come in the future.
Okay, Ms. T, do we still have? We spoke about the British West Indies Act of 1962.
Yes, we had it here.
Do we have that there? Let me bring it up for you, because I want us to share that with our audience as well. It's important for them to know, because that act is actually still in force, and the reason that it is still in force is because of the fact that there are still territories that are, and we know that because we're one of them, that are still under British administration, and whenever a country in the Caribbean is granted independence, it is by virtue of that act. So, Ms. Teresa, can you share that with our audience, what the law intention of the law is?
So it says an act to enable provisions to be made for the cessor of the inclusion. I don't know if I'm the best person actually to read this because of
your voice is going. Okay. Doc, you want to take it?
Okay. It says in 1962, Chapter 9, 10, and 11, Elizabeth 2, West Indies Act 1962. An act, it says, an act to enable provisions to be made for the cessor of the inclusion of colonies in the Federation established under the British Caribbean Act 1956, and for the dissolution of the Federation, and for matters consequential on the happening of either of those events, to enable provisions to be made for the establishment of common courts and other authorities for, and fresh provisions to be made for the government of certain West Indian colonies, to enable provisions to be made for the establishment of new forms of government for government for combinations and for purposes connected with the matters aforesaid. And then it goes on, it says, and then the first part talk about compensation of officers of the Federal Public Service. That's not, and the second, power of Her Majesty to establish common courts. Her Majesty may by order in council, provide for the establishment and places of the Federal Supreme Court of the Federation, of a court constituted in as may be specified in the order, and having such jurisdiction to hear and determine appeals from and to determine questions of law reserved by judges of the courts of the relevant colonies as may be determined by or under the order. Provide for conferring on the courts established by the order jurisdiction to hear and determine appeals from and determine questions of law reserved by judges of the courts of such other colonies as may be specified in the order, and confer upon the legislature of a colony from those courts criminal appeals lie to the court established by the order power to make with extraterritorial operation, laws providing for the conveyance of prisoners to and from the place where the court is sitting. Her Majesty may order in council provide for the establishment of the relevant colonies for any two or more of them courts additional to those establishment in authorizing. In other words, that's giving Her Majesty's power to establish courts. And then power of Her Majesty to provide for government of certain West Indies colonies. Her Majesty may order in council make such provisions as appears to her expedient for the government of any of the colonies to which this section applies, and for that purpose provide may provide for the establishment of for the colony of such authorities as she thinks expedient, and may empower such of them as may be specified in order to make laws either generally or for the peace, order, and good governance of the colony, or for such limited purposes as may be so specified, subject to, however, to the reservation of herself of power to make laws for the colony for such, if any, purposes as may be specified.
If you can hold it there for a minute and just repeat that particular section, because that's what I wanted to get to, because that's what we talked about this morning. Talk about the nuclear option, and Ms. Teresa spoke about laying out the rules in terms of how what the UK government can and cannot do. It's right there in
Her
in
Majesty
that order. Yes?
may by order in council make such provisions as appears to her expedient for the government of any of the colonies to which this section applies, and for that purpose may provide for the establishment for the colony of such authorities as she thinks expedient, and may empower such of them as may be specified in the order to make laws either generally for the peace, order, and good governance of the colony, or for such limited purposes as may be so specified, subject, however, to the reservation to herself of power to make laws for the colony for such, if any, purposes as may be so specified.
And those laws include constitutions.
Because our interests may not be the same as the United Kingdom's interests.
But the UK's interest is paramount.
So what I'm saying and have been saying is that we need to set out and develop a set of principles and doctrines which actually state the terms under which the UK can actually interfere with our business. And you can't continue to have British overreach randomly. And I mean,
as long as we have the 1962 Act, it will be there. And that is one of the reasons why the Premier and the leader of the opposition went to the UK and spoke about that overreach, because we saw it with the finance bill,
beneficial ownership register, etc.
Yes, we saw that.
But it must be more. We are at a stage of development now where it must transcend those things. I mean, it's not unreasonable to know the circumstances when the UK is desirous of interfering with our relationship, and it comes back to what Steve was saying, as we were both saying. We don't trust our own people to do what is in our best interest. So when are we going to just grow up? I mean, would we just prefer that folks that have their own agenda, have their own interests, continue to I mean, the caller that was on the phone when Dr. Steve responded, I think you referred to him as being Mr. Bawden. We need to be in a space where we can actually make decisions that are relevant for us. So I mean, maybe I'm going out to lunch here, and I mean, the things that come to mind, like I say, is immigration and voting rights.
We have to take a commercial break. I just want to say good morning to the Honourable Speaker. Ms. Mary Lawrence, good morning. Welcome to For the Record. And we're going to go to a commercial break, but I wanted you to say good morning to our audience before we go there.
Good morning to everyone. And my progress here was slowed by all the road work. But if it's going to help traffic from Buddentown, God bless them and help them, Louis.
Thank you very much. Folks, please stay tuned for The Record. We'll be back shortly.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes. Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less-than-container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore.
Did you know the third most important factor for customer retention is cleanliness? With 95% of shoppers saying exterior appearance influences where they decide to shop. Keep your business clean with Roper's Janitorial. From offices to restaurants, interior and exterior, walls to rugs and flooring, Roper's cleans it all, including 24-hour emergency service. Roper's Janitorial, 949-2511. Email janitorial@ropers.ky. Dress your business for success with Roper's Janitorial. We make your business shine. 949-2511.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
Summertime is when Cayman Airways full of people are travel to Jamaica. If you're late for checking your flight, you will lose your seat. Remember now, check-in time for Cayman Airways flight is 2 hours before departure. Make sure you're not late.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
I would just like to say,
Good morning, and welcome back to For the Record. We've been joined by the Honourable Mayor Lawrence, former Speaker of our Legislative Assembly, and one of our historians here in the Cayman Islands as well. And many of you may also know she's also a poet. And she's written, several poems as well. One that I found in the Trade Winds. I haven't shared that with her yet, but I will share that with her at some point in time. But there is one that she has written recently that I'm going to probably seek her permission and see if we can put that up on our Facebook page here on Radio Cayman and give our audience an opportunity to read it. It is really, really quite interesting and quite up to date as well. Madam Speaker, good morning again.
Good morning, sir. And that was written actually for the 150th anniversary of parliamentary government. And I haven't read it. I added to it since. I was listening to the conversation as I came in on the radio. And the question of the Britain having the power to override or whatever we do here is written into the Constitution, even the newest one that we have. Mm-hmm. And I heard Mr. Macfield, Dr. Macfield, state, it was you who read from the newspaper that said that Mr. Berkeley and Miss Annie had a public meeting in Georgetown in 1962 to discuss the Constitution. And remember now, this is right behind the 59 Constitution, and stated that these particular issues had been discussed in the House, and the majority had agreed to them, but they had not done so. And as I was just saying to the team here, we were better off then when it came to communication from government than we are today, because they went to the House, and don't forget, people went to the House to hear what they had to say in those days, and they came back out and they said, we did not campaign to have constitutional change, and we do not support the matters that have been put out there, but we are bringing it to you, the people, to tell us what you want to do. And we have lost that contact where the people, we have, Teresa just said, that we are afraid of our own people. We don't trust our own people. But we don't trust our own people because we don't trust ourselves. We ourselves lack knowledge. And when you lack knowledge, you cannot make decisions. And that is our biggest problem in the Cayman community today. Anybody can come here and tell us anything, and we believe it. We spend millions to bring in people to advise us on this, that, and the other thing, when we have our own people right here that could make those decisions for us. And this is not from the people's viewpoint. This is from the government's viewpoint. The government spends millions to have people come and tell us what to do. Simple things. We bring people in to tell us what to do. And so when we get caught in a situation like we are today, we don't know how to respond. We don't know how to deal with it. I said, and I'm going to say this here now, and I hope they're listening. When they questioned the authenticity of the petition that went around concerning the port, and I signed that petition. when they question that, and they are going to the extent that they're going knocking on people's doors and say, did you sign this? Did you sign this? Did you sign this? When they do that, when they doubt that much, it is time to put 5,000 people in front of that building across the over here, across that parking lot, and say, this is the voice of the people. Listen to it. Nobody wants to listen to what the people have to say. They want the people to say what they want them to say, and when they have a different opinion, nobody wants to listen to it.
But, Madam Speaker, being the devil's advocate, you don't think that it is important to ensure some sort of verification, whether it be random or what, for them to accept signatures without going through some verification process, that would be a dereliction of duty on their part as well?
And I don't know how they recorded other people, but they had their electoral roll there. They had my address. Mm-hmm. They questioned me. Mm-hmm. I had to show my... although everybody sitting to the table knew who I was, I had to show my identification, my passport, my driver's license to prove who I was. And all the people that I saw them register were registered in the same way. We did a referendum for the Constitution. And nobody did a verification on that. Right. Yeah. Nobody did a verification on that.
I mean, but there was that point.
But there were no positions. There were no positions. No petitions in that regard. Every registered elector had the right to vote in that. Doc, I think you wanted to say something as well. Let's see if we can cover that before we go to our next break.
Yeah, we'll cover that in the next break.
Okay, Madam Speaker, you still have the microphone then.
So I was going to stick a pin though, Miss Mary. Yeah. When folks invite other people to tell us what we already know, and these folks are less intelligent than the know-how and the authenticity that we have, that is so it gives me a sense of despair, because they're inviting people to tell us what we know, and often tell us things that are not relevant to us. Anyway, that's me going on my hobby.
Yeah, but I'm going to go back to the referendum for the simple reason that they are doubting that the people who put the referendum together, who went out and had the signatures added, that they're going to check every single signature. It's a delay tactic as far as I'm concerned. It's going to take a very long time to do that. And you know what is happening? They're going to people who signed that petition and they're saying, listen, my signature is there. If you don't doubt it, I'm not going to sign it again, because they're afraid. People are afraid now that this process is going to be used to identify people who were in opposition, personally identify them, and they're afraid of retribution. Yeah, people have spoken to me about that they're afraid that if they say this, if this second identification by the government is that when have they ever, where in the world have you ever had that happen? We've had referenda across the globe. Where in the world have they ever gone out to decide whether the people who signed the referendum is?
I haven't seen it.
Actually,
I haven't seen it in any.
But
I just feel that it's a delay tactic, and I think the decision has already been made as far as the vote is concerned, because they pretty much said that. But at the same time, I think they should respect the rights of the people.
But as far as the identification is concerned, when do they ask you to print your name as well as to sign your name?
And to sign your name.
So you point out that you believe that that's a way of, or people are fearful that that's a way for the government to identify them. But they're already identified if they print their name and sign their name. So the verification process now doesn't establish any new identification process.
No, but it's on an individual basis now.
Okay.
This is an individual basis now. Okay. And I think that's where the fear of the people comes from. Caymanians have been conditioned to believe that if they do something, that's why we don't speak out. If we say something out loud, the axe is going to fall. If if we take a certain position, the axe is going to fall. We have been conditioned to believe that this is possible. Even when everybody says, oh, no, there's going to be no retribution, we have been conditioned to believe that there can be retribution, that my child might not get a scholarship because I signed a petition. Let's put it in clear words, because that is what people believe. Whether it's justified or not, that is the belief of the people, that they can be retribution can come and fall against them. But I want to quote something, because I know what we said we just read into the overseas into the West Indies Act.
1 second. Do we want to come to headline news first, Ms. Susan? We're a half a minute away from that. So rather than having to interrupt you, Madam Speaker, we're going to take headline news at 9 o'clock, and we'll come right back to you. Folks, please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Satisfaction is guaranteed 24 hours a day, whether it's music or information.
From Grand Cayman to Cayman Brac to Little Cayman, we've got you covered.
You ever hear a thing like that?
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
A 5-member team is representing the Cayman Islands at the ongoing 44th Annual Conference of the Caribbean, Americas, and the Atlantic region of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association in Trinidad and Tobago. The CPA Regional Conference also includes the 15th Regional Youth Parliamentary Meeting, where 2 local students will represent Cayman in the debates. The U.S. House of Representatives has voted to condemn U.S. President Donald Trump after a series of attacks aimed at 4 congresswomen. The symbolic resolution denounced Mr. Trump's, quote, racist comments that have legitimized fear and hatred of new Americans and people of color. Mr. Trump had been accused of racism and xenophobia for telling the members of Congress to leave the country. Sudan's ruling military council and opposition leaders have signed a power-sharing accord after all-night talks. It was a, quote, historic moment for the country, the deputy head of Sudan's ruling military council is quoted as saying by AFP news agency. Sudan has been in turmoil since the military ousted President Omar al-Bashir in April. Protesters have been demanding the military hand power to civilians. Those are your headlines. I'm Carsley Fuller.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve McFeel, Ms. Teresa Pitcairn, Honorable Mary Lawrence. Doc, the mic is yours.
Ms. Lawrence was going to read something.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry.
We're talking about decisions that were made in the years gone by. And I want to read again the memorial that the Legislative Assembly of Justices in Vestry sent to the Secretary of State on the constitutional future of the islands on the 7th of April, 1955. They were very concise in their aims. 3 aims. First, we wish to retain the right to control entry to our islands, immigration. Secondly, we wish to retain the right to decide what taxes should be imposed on us. Thirdly, we wish to retain our right to maintain our established channels of trade and employment overseas. They were the 3 things that they asked for. And when they went down the line and they came back to 1962, and they were arguing back and forth about where they would go, and they pulled that stunt there, or they pulled that where we clapped to decide whether we were going to have constitutional change and not have or
referendum
not have
by hands clapping.
By hand clapping. Whether when we got down to that stage, again they said they would remain a British Crown colony until the people chose to do differently. at all times they were trying to protect themselves, even if they didn't have the degrees that we feel that our people have today. They were trying to protect this country by one way or the other one. And so I find us now in a position where we are being told more than we're being asked what is going to happen. We have just had a delegation go to London, or recently anyway, to discuss constitutional change. But we need to hear what the discussion was about.
Yes.
Why do you have to read it in the British newspapers? Why do we have to hear it from someone else, what is being decided for us or what is being discussed about us? Why haven't they come to the people and say, these were the things we discuss? These are the points we need to take forward. Mm-hmm. The Constitutional Commissioner was here the last time I was sitting here.
Yes.
Or the first, when we were first here together. And he said he had been asked for his opinion, and he had offered 3-4 things, I think it was, he said, that they thought ought to be included in the new constitution that they're thinking about bringing in, or the amendments to the present constitution they're talking about bringing in. The Constitution calls for a referendum for any changes.
That's right.
And we can water that down and say, well, this is a minor change.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I know if you take a knot out or you put a knot in a law, you have changed the entire, whatever, you have changed the entire meaning of that. And I believe that these things should be public discussion. We need to. We have more legislators now than we've had in our lives. We've got 19 people sitting in that house. And they're extremely silent when it comes to things like the future of this country and the discussions that need to be taking place with the Caymanian people. Mm-hmm. And I say Caymanian people because we are the people who vote to put people in the house. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No matter how many nationalities we have in this country and how much we feel they should be integrated into our society, it is the Caymanian who must go to the polls to vote for the government of the day. And I think that our right to have a say in the decisions that they make, particularly when it comes to constitutional change, should be respected.
And that should come directly from the people, not through their legislators.
That's right.
Okay. Because what I was going to say was that the Premier and the Leader of the Opposition were the two representatives who went to the UK. We can assume that the Premier was speaking on behalf of members of his party and members of his government. Mm-hmm. We can also assume that the Leader of the Opposition was speaking on behalf of all of his members of the opposition. So in essence,
you assume that.
That's what I'm saying. We can assume. Yes. Now we're hearing otherwise now.
He wasn't speaking on their behalf.
But that was the case, Doc.
Well, the thing that bothers me now that I'm privy to all of this information, is why haven't they come to the people and say, this is what we'll discuss. This is what we agreed to or we didn't agree to, as Miss Annie and Mr. Berkeley Bush did in those days. Why can they do that today?
Mm-hmm. The Premier did it in the Legislative Assembly. In his presentation.
Why can't they bring it to the people? Why can't they come on the platform in Bordentown or in Georgetown and bring it to the people?
It's not. It shouldn't be any state secret that discussions were held about this or held about that over there. Come to the people and say, listen, these are the things we discussed. My party approves of this, but you, the people, have to make the decision. The decision on any constitutional change should be by referendum. The people should have a say, because this is the future, not just of this generation, but the generations to come.
Now, one of the rumors of the pertain to the changes that I hear is...
I'm not saying that they're bad changes.
No one's saying that at all.
Yes. And I'm not saying that their intentions when putting them forward to England were not genuine either. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is they need to come to the people and talk to the people about these changes, and then if the people feel strong, go to referenda and have it settled.
Well, one of the rumors I heard about some of the changes that they were discussing, I don't know if it's true or not, it's just a rumor, mild road rumor, is that term limits change.
For members or for the premier?
For the premier. There's no change, there's no term limit on members.
Right.
I never believe in term limits in a constitution. I think that is a dangerous thing. Term limits are already written into the election. Every 4 years you have a term limit. I don't think that people should be limited to only 2 years or one term, because if people are good, if the constituents want them to continue, they should be able to continue. Term limits is not a part of the British system in the UK. There's no term limits in the UK. Term limits seems to be in an American system, where American presidents are limited to cannot run more than 2 terms. We should not have term limits. It's the people should decide whether Miss Mayor Lawrence is good, if she's elected, whether she should stay 1 term or 2 terms or 3 terms. I don't believe that's the right thing to do, and that is one change that I would support. The term limit that they should take out of the Constitution, because it's a bad idea to have term limits.
Okay, Ms. T, anything here?
I'm actually for term limits because you tend to see what happens when people make politics a career, and I'm not going to compare the United States to the Cayman Islands. Obviously, that's fish and fowl. But based on what I have observed thus far, you see where it makes me nervous when you create an environment where people are so arrogant that they believe that they can behave in a manner ad nauseum, and do what they like. That's a personal thing.
Suppose we substituted term limits for having recall, where you could recall your legislator, if you feel that they're not
I'm
performing, or
because I'm good with that.
Because what in such a small jurisdiction, what term limit may help to occur is that persons who are willing and able to continue to serve and have certain skills and have something to offer in terms of elected government may be prevented from doing so by those term limits.
I agree with that.
But if you want to get the bad ones out, then you have recall provisions.
Yes. And I agree with that, because the continuity of information is very, very important, and it's even more important for stability. That knowledge is very important. One of the central concerns that was raised by a young man that I had the opportunity to meet recently, who was on another talk show. He's 19 years old. He commented on the role of communication. He says that we have gotten to a place where our government doesn't even see don't even think that it is important to communicate with local people. So he said that that's a real concern that he and other persons in his, and this is a very intelligent young man, this is a real concern that he and others like him have. Mm-hmm. The other thing is they're saying they do not see, and he itemized the qualities that he was looking for in leadership. And it was quite sad to sit there and listen to this young man say that he don't see nobody who satisfies the qualities that he is looking for, like integrity, like intelligence. He's not talking about someone that has a degree or not, but he's talking about the intelligence that you need to run a country effectively. So, and I'm sitting back and I'm listening to this young man, and I'm impressed because, at least it now tells me that our kids are listening. And then he wants someone that wants to think about and implement policies that best serve the Caymanian people. He wasn't being mean-spirited when he said Caymanian people, but he said that Caymanian people are being left behind. So he says, who is taking care of us and our future? I sat back and I listened. So I'm hoping folks are taking stock of what the youngsters are also saying.
Well, Mr. McField, when it comes to term limits, I think that we have to, before we could talk about taking that out, the 2 terms for the premier, and we have to consider the fact that our people do not understand how the party system works.
Yes.
They don't understand that when they're electing their legislator, they are actually putting a vote in the pocket of the person who's going to lead the party.
Yes.
They don't understand that.
Yes, I agree with that.
They are voting for that person without any thought of the effect it's going to have on the party system when that person and all the other persons get together. Because the premier doesn't just happen. The premier is the head of the party. He's the person the party elects to lead them. And he's the person that is going to lead the country. So when the people don't understand how the party system works, they don't understand that they are contributing to the election of someone to lead the party. And for that reason, more than probably anything else, I think the term limits should be, the time for service as a premier should be limited to 2 terms. It does not mean he cannot come back after a break. It does not mean he cannot come back, because he can come back. But we have to limit it in some way to ensure that we don't go on ad infinitum with the same person. Or you're saying that we can have recall. Recall only works again when the party system works.
Yeah.
And the party system does not work in Cayman.
But I was only speaking in terms of recall of members of the Legislative Assembly, not necessarily the
you see, you can my member, and I'm not saying we shouldn't have this in. Okay. My member can be. I can vote to have him recall. I can have a recall on him, but that does not influence very much the effect of the entire government. The person who leads the government is the person who calls the shots. No matter what they tell you about caucus and all the rest of it, the person lead and this is where leadership comes in. This is where strength comes in. If that person is not a strong person, then we are running in every direction. At the same time, you can have someone at the head of it who takes us in a direction we don't want to go. We have to have some breaks in the situation, and especially in view of the fact that we do not understand the party system and we do not understand how the Constitution works.
Well, who's responsible for educating people and informing people of all
the
those
very
things?
People who are affected by the education are responsible.
I have to go to commercial break, and we have one caller on hold as well. And then we also, into that question also, would be there are some persons who have called for the premier to be elected by popular vote. And we want to talk about the impracticality of that with the current political situation arrangement that we have here in the Cayman Islands. Caller, please hang in there. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we return, we will take your call.
I just love the warm ocean air.
Yeah? Your car doesn't.
What you mean?
Looks like salt air is eating your bumper alive.
Stop rust before it starts with Z-Bot Rust Protection from Vant Motors. The extreme heat, salt spray, and wet tropical weather can damage your vehicle and greatly decrease its value. But Z-Bot's patented formula protects your car's metal seams, joints, and other hidden areas. There's no better rust protection out there than Z-Bot. So book today and keep the rust away. Call or visit Vant Motors Body Shop on Walker's Road. Your only authorized Z-Bot service in Cayman is now available at Vant Motors.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Remember to discard all fresh fruits and vegetables, meats, all foods in canisters, dented, leaking, or rusting cans after they have come in contact with flood water. Also discard foods that are stored in cardboard boxes, paper foil, cellophane, and cloth, as well as those in open containers and packages. For more post-hurricane food safety tips, visit DEH website at deh.gov.ky.
For the Record with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the Record with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. Around the table with me, we have Dr. Mary Lawrence, Honorable Speaker, former Speaker of the Legislative Assembly, Ms. Teresa Pitcairn, Dr. Steve McPhail. Going to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Fine. How are you doing?
Fine, thanks.
And good morning to the rest of your panel as well.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Theo, how are you doing?
Fine. How are you, Mr. Morgan?
Yeah, nice to hear you and hear your voice.
Seems to hear to you too.
Thank you. No, I guess I'm not a little, but I'm very concerned about what's happening in the island when they talk about the Constitution and what's taking place here. But as usual, I don't like to stick around on the phone too long, but I'd like to pass on my opinion. I was talking to a gentleman from the Bahamas just a couple of weeks ago when we were back from London. And he was talking about the Bahamas, how the Bahamians got their handle on things and how they run things. And the police force in the Bahamas is Bahamians. Now, I don't know what kind of smoke screen they're putting up about the UK. Even if the governor here is state, it's obvious who's running this country. It's not our Caymanians. And some of those people are well-rooted here, and they're not looking for us. They're looking for their own. And I feel concerned that, Caymanians are not given a fair opportunity to run their country. Even if you get a prime minister here, we have to have somebody a little bit more lenient to see that Caymanians are not left behind. When it comes to the police force, you have to have special qualifications. And he was talking about in the Bahamas, if they're not exactly qualified, they would take them on, and as time go by, they will, get some experience and move on. But in Cayman, when they're recruiting police for one, I don't see that they're really taking too much pains in trying to recruit Caymanians, not only for the police force, but other parts of government as well. And I don't know what's going to happen, but when you talk about Mr. William Thornton, they were the guys that, I guess, handle things. I think we're being outnumbered by people here who has status or citizenship, and they are looking for their people. They are not looking for Caymanians from my point of view. So how are we going to go about this thing? But, if I could get some explanation how you guys see things, I would certainly appreciate it. So that's my little piece of this morning, and thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. Ladies and gentlemen, response to the caller? Oh, we have another caller? We'll let them respond first. Mm-hmm. Go to Madam Speaker.
The question of who is representing the Caymanian people is one that comes up all the time. We changed our system of representation in the last election to have the one man, one vote. And the one man, one vote was supposed to give each area of these 19 little pieces that they divided us into, that was supposed to give us special access to the person who was supposed to be representing us. Well, I can tell you from experience it hasn't worked like that. The fact of the matter is you cannot share up. And the easiest, and it's a practice that has happened in colonial systems across the globe, divide and conquer. You can share us up into little tiny pieces, which means we have no communication with each other. We have no contact with each other. We're not working together, and that is the position we're in right now. Every area, every little constituency is a little island on its own. And the person who is representing that constituency should be on almost daily communication. The constituency is so small, almost daily communication with his people or her people, whoever it is. But we're not getting that. What we have is a group of people that we've put into the House, and they're looking after tourism, they're looking after finance, they're looking after building roads, they're looking after international matters. And the high school started 12 years ago, is still in the bush in Georgetown. That is where we are failing our people. If our people are not educated, and we have an election coming up in 2021 where we're going to have those young people that should be in that high school learning about their country, learning about their constitution, learning about their laws, learning how the election process works, they're going to be going to the polls without that knowledge one more time to elect a government that they don't know what they are going to do when they get there, and they don't know how the representation works. I have the greatest respect for the present Premier. I've had the greatest respect for all the leaders of our country and the governors of this country. But the fact of the matter is our people do not understand. They have not been educated. And over the years, in my opinion, it has been a deliberate act to make sure they're not educated, because knowledge is power.
We have another caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC.
Morning. How are you?
All right, good morning to the panel, and I can call on my name. I think I'm doing a very, very, very good job there.
Good morning, sir.
I want to ask a question. Maybe you all can answer it. Do you know why the United Nations do not come back here, or not allowed to come back here now?
Well,
United Nations?
You talking about the Decolonization Committee?
Yes, sir.
First of all, they have to get the permission of the United Kingdom government to do so. And normally what the United Kingdom government will do is that they will approach our political leaders here, in the case our premier, or in other cases leader of government business, to see if there is a willingness to do so. But at the same time, in approaching them quietly, discouraging the elected representatives of the Cayman Islands from having the Decolonization Committee here. So the simple answer is the United Kingdom does not want them to be here to talk to us. That's why you don't see them encouraging us whenever it is held in other jurisdictions. How many times do we go?
I was the last representative.
Yeah, we saw recently.
In 2010.
We saw recently where the British Virgin Islands, they have invited the Decolonization Committee to come to the British Virgin Islands to educate their people, to talk to them. We do not do that here in the Cayman Islands, caller. So that's why collaboration between the United Kingdom government and the authorities in the Cayman Islands to keep them out.
You should be inviting them to an action, Chef. United Kingdom will give them permission to come in, because we could learn a lot from them. I remember the last time they came here, I learned something from them that I didn't know before, because it was widely circulated. England said there would be no more constitution like what Bermuda got. That's what preached down here. And I asked a simple question, Dr. Steve, you was at the meeting. If that were true, they said no, United Kingdom is part of United Nations, and if they gave Bermuda Constitution, they're going to give us the same thing. That answer the head man told us at that meeting at Malone. So I am very confused and disappointed, because the Bermudians are not as smart as the Caymanians. Some of us left here messman, and within a short space of time, we commanded the biggest ship that ever float. So give us a chance to run our country, but we should talk about it. Our politician is even afraid to talk about it. Last election, that should have been a campaign issue, the Constitution, and not a word. And not a word here again, but I understand they're going to change some part of it again. without consulting us or telling us what they're doing.
Okay.
You all have a blessed day. I got to go back to work.
Thank you very much, caller. We have another caller, but we're getting close to time. But one of our listeners, we're getting close to a break. One of our listeners has written in and talking about term limits for the Premier, and they point out that term limits were never discussed for the Premier, were never discussed with the United Kingdom government. It was never on the agenda, and that they know personally that the current Premier is not in favor of term limits. They also point out that there have been calls from previous premiers or leader of government business or Premier for the term limits to be removed for the Premier, because they feel that the current Premier is doing an excellent job. This person says that there have been calls from others, but it is not on the agenda of the Premier, nor does he wish to put it on the agenda for the term limits to be removed for the Premier. They also point out that if you go to the records of the constitutional negotiations, that is one aspect of it that was inserted there by the then government of which the Premier was a part of and was one of the major architects as far as the 2009 Constitution is concerned. Let's take a commercial break, folks. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health. Traffic congestion is bad for your mental health, bad for your wallet, and bad for the environment. Alternative commuting habits are the solution. Cycling, walking, busing, or carpooling will help save you money, benefit your health, conserve energy, and help the environment. Do your part. Visit the Ministry Facebook page for details of plans for bicycle lanes, the latest bus schedules, and be an energy advocate.
If your business is over here, but your customers are over here, adding more yellow to your business will bring you both right here. With everyone searching yellows, print, online, and mobile app, getting your business noticed is easier than ever. Book your consultation today at findyellow.com.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matters. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me, Dr. Steve McPhail, Ms. Teresa Pitcairn, the Honorable Mary Lawrence. We have a caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, morning, O.C.
Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Dr. Steve.
Good morning.
Ms. Pitcairn. Yeah, listen, I love listening to you guys, you know. And you know something, I take away so much from you guys, and we're talking about educating our young people about the politics. And Mr. Steve, when I hear you listen and you give one of the newest members there, Mr. Brian, another one, advice, they don't listen to you. And I go out on the street and I talk to the younger ones than me that I listen and I learn from you. And they cuss me out like a dog. It's a sad story. And, you know, when I think about the older people that you guys are saying, the three things that they wanted to protect their boundary, you know, the trade, who they wanted to trade with. And now that they gave us that power to protect our boundary. And what are we doing with it? we letting everybody, the people that we trust to protect our boundary, is some of the biggest criminals that we have walking the streets. And don't care what kind of constitution that we get or the politician, because the politician play against the division, just like Ms. Mayor Lawrence said. Listen, the Caymanians that is in position, that own the big construction companies, and the little one that just get their teams, they would see their own little classmates. They know they need a little job in there, but no, I can hire, because I got a name OSF. I can hire overseas slave and pay him nothing. And if I don't pay him this weekend, he said nothing, I will send you back. And let me tell you something. That is one of the most destructive things, ladies and gentlemen, that are happening to the people of our island and our Caymanian people. Because don't stop and think that if you, the Caymanian, don't give your Caymanian a chance, that the foreigner can come and give them a chance. That's a very, very sad story.
Some of the foreigners might give you a better chance than some of your Caymanians at times, too. You there, caller? Oh, he's gone. Okay. Madam Speaker, I don't know if you have on hand, we spoke in the shows that we had celebrating the Constitution about the various changes to our Constitution. Do you have those on hand with you? Well, I'll give you an opportunity to find those and throw the mic back over to Dr. Steve Macfield in the meantime.
Right. Before he said anything, and we were talking a little bit about the role of the party system and leadership. Given the type of political association and system that we have in place, and given the concerns that people have about leadership, and let me be cautious again, in saying what we shared this morning, it wasn't to attack anyone personally. It's just, these are just our observations with the view that people will start to think about whether or not they have any substance and arrive at their own conclusion. But given the party system, like I said, that we have now, or the fractured nature of the party system that we have now, when people are asking about the role of leadership and seeking to devise a system that allows them to get the leader that they want, and I mean, we started to touch on the conversation about the election, whether or not the entire island can vote for one person who they believe will be the premier. Can we also have a conversation with the community, whether it's in this format, to discuss leadership and how we get to the leadership that perhaps we can have for 2021? And I'm making it contextual, given the nature of the system that we have now. And I don't know what's going to happen in 2021, but we have to start talking about these things.
Ms. Mayor, I think you found your stuff.
Yeah. But in addition to what Teresa said, I say again, and I said it here the other morning, this is an opportune time for us to put the study of our government into the new curriculum that they're devising for this country. We have 2 years to the next election. A lot of the children, hundreds of the children that are in the school system now will be going to the polls in that election. And we need to ensure that they thoroughly understand how their government works. They thoroughly understand the precepts of the Constitution. That this is not something that they're going to go up there and they're going to go to the next political meeting and they're going to clap because somebody said something about somebody else, and that's the reason that they're going to vote for that person. They have to understand that in the system we have now, the party system that we have now, it is extremely important to know how the government works, to know how the election works, to know how the party system works, so that when you go to the polls, the person that you are voting for is a little peg in a system, and you have to know where that peg is going to fit, so that when they go to the House, they carry a leader with them that takes, and a cabinet with them, not just the leader, the cabinet. We have 7 members in that cabinet that thoroughly respects the Caymanian people and the wishes of the people. And I said just now, we do a lot of things. All of these things are important. It is important to protect the financial industry. It is important to protect the tourism industry. It is important to protect the trade and other areas of government that we deal with. But it is also important to protect the people. It is most important to protect the people. And not just this generation, but the generations to come. We have to be able to pass on to the next generation, not just a country, but an understanding of who they are as a people.
Stick a pin though, Ms. Maria, and I hear what you're saying, but can I take you back to our recent election, where you had the coming of 2 separate groups of people to make the government. And I heard you when you list the format in which leadership and elections should occur. I'm saying that that's not necessarily going to be the case again in 2021. So how do we prepare our community for the possibility of having, again, another fractured political system and enable the kind of outcome that they would like?
But if we give our children, and this is where we have to start, if we give our young people an understanding of what government is, of who government is. I hear people saying, oh, the government is doing this for you. The government doesn't do anything for me. The government is put there to manage the affairs of the country and to manage its finances in the interest of the people. They got the finances from the people in the first place. Their salaries are paid from the finances that are collected from the people. People have to understand how government works. And whether you have a coalition government, people don't even understand what a coalition government is.
Yes,
That's
a part of my point.
We have to teach it to them. We have to put the facts out there, and we can put it out in schools, we can put it out on public forums, but it needs to be out there so people can understand how it really works. We have a coalition government, and they went to great. There was so much evolution in that whole week preceding the seating of that government that people got confused. They didn't understand what was happening.
And that is the one thing, in response to Mr. Reese's question, that is the one thing that we do not need to happen in the Cayman Islands. Again, this big question mark in terms of what will the political landscape of the Cayman Islands be after an election. We cannot have that uncertainty. It is not good for investment. It is not good for the people of the Cayman Islands, not just foreign investors, but our local investors as well. Which brings me to the point. Those who advocate for independent candidates, nothing wrong with having independent candidates, but who believe that the majority of independent candidates, if they're elected, their ability to form a effective and stable government is in question. It is in question. Hence, I believe that the former leader of the opposition, you have heard him speak about the fact that he is going to be running candidates in every district, whether or not he forms a political party or whatever it is called. I believe it is in the realization that is the only way that you're going to be able to form an effective, stable government is by having persons who have a common core amongst themselves. And if that is a political party, so be it. But it is necessary to have that. What we've done is we've closed off the phone lines so that we can get this discussion. Just want to read. We're going to take a break. I just want to read what one of our listeners said, and it says, "I disagree with the Honorable Mayor Lawrence's position with regards to the verification of signatures. I support the people's right to initiate a referendum as per the Constitution. However, I believe it would be a dereliction of duty if the governor did not approve some sort of verification method or process. I also believe that the method must be thorough and efficient to be completed in the shortest time frame possible. This is an important milestone in our history, and it must be fair to all parties, no matter which side of the fence you sit on. Let us not forget the cliche, trust but we verify. I look forward to voting in this first in our history People's Initiated Referendum. The CPR campaigners did a fantastic job collecting the signatures, and our Caymanian populace should not be distracted or disillusioned. We have an opportunity to be part of a historic event. This gives us an opportunity for our collective voices to be heard. With that, we'll take a commercial break, the last one for the morning. When we return, we will probably have about 12 or 13 minutes left with the show. Please stay tuned. For the record, we'll be back shortly.
Congratulations, it's a boy.
During the greatest events of your life, whether or not you have the right health insurance coverage should be the last thing on your mind. That's why at Fidelity Health, we are committed to helping you get matched with the right plan to suit you and your family. We offer a range of plans to suit your budget, plus access to a network of quality care throughout the Caribbean and the USA. You can relax and enjoy life's greatest moments when you are covered with Fidelity Health. Call us today at 949-7822 for a free quote. Water Authority Cayman wishes to advise its valuable customers and the motoring public that the eastbound traffic along Rex Crichton Boulevard will be diverted to Shime Street, heading towards Shamrock Road, tomorrow, Thursday, 18 July, from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. to facilitate planned works. Traffic signs will be posted in the general vicinity, and all motorists have been asked to drive with caution to ensure your own safety as well as that of the Water Authority staff. The Water Authority appreciates the patience and understanding of its customers and the public as it undertakes these road works and do apologize for any inconvenience caused.
It was a day that changed my life. No words can describe the feelings of seeing my baby boy sick for the first time. The overwhelming feeling of fear to be responsible for his health and happiness became my priority. So I did what any nurturing mother would do when their baby is sick. I took him to get some of the best medicine possible.
CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy understands the importance of careful decisions you make every day for your family. Our staff work towards healthcare excellence and providing the most current and up-to-date training with pharmaceutical care, so you can feel confident in knowing that your family is safe with the right medication. At CTMH Doctors Hospital Pharmacy, we take care of your health.
Excuse me, I noticed you from afar.
Really? Me?
Well, not you. The KFC sandwich you're eating.
Oh, Zinger.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be funny.
No, it's called the Zinger Sandwich. Crunchy, juicy, 100% chicken breast, crisp lettuce, sweet mayo on a seeded bun with a little zing. KFC's chicken is not factory-breaded, frozen and refried like the Burger Boys. Customize your KFC Zinger and dip it in barbecue sauce.
Wow, now I'm starting to notice you too.
KFC, it's finger-licking good.
For the record, with Orrett Connor.
Initiating system.
For information that matter. For the record, with Orrett Connor. Continues right now on Radio Cayman.
Good morning and welcome back to For the Record. We're on the last leg of the show this morning, and we probably won't get to the history of amendments of some of our Constitution because all of our panel members here want to respond to that message that I received in relation to the verification process. So we'll start with you, Dr. Macfield.
Well, I don't see why we have to go to this highfalutin way of verifying, where you have to go down and sign another petition, so to speak, a short paper to say that you were the one whose signature appears on the petition, and then you sign a paper saying to verify that. If we had a law in place, we would have had the parameters set out, and we wouldn't have to have this discussion today. And this is the whole thing. This is the whole thing why we have this discussion, is because we do not plan for the future, and we do not use the Constitution as it should be used. We ignore the Constitution. We ignore all the provisions of some of the provisions of it. For instance, when the governor was on the radio the other morning, I asked him about Section 117, which is the standard in public life, and he said that he was looking after that to try to get that done. And I asked him about Section 119, the provisions that deals with district advisory district council. He said he's not dealing with that. That's left to the politicians to deal with. So here we are. And as Dr. Lawrence said before, 10
years after the passing of the Constitution.
Yes, and 10 years. Dr. Lawrence said today, decade. This kind of verification, and she put it, I can't put it the way she put it. It's another way of control under the 1962 West Indian Act, where they keep control and controlling by setting the parameters for us of how this verification has to be done. But bear that in mind that what we have done is we have accepted the influence of the British law and the language, and we have accepted the British responsibility to govern us and to be responsible for our affairs. And in addition, even the pomp and pageantry of the whole colonial system, we have used that. We have used that to our advantage to lure tourists in, to sell the Cayman Islands, and to say that it's changeless, and hence because it's changeless, it's stable, and we even sold that to financiers to get more money. So it's our fault. We have to now deal with it, and I don't know what's going to happen if something would happen to Dr. Lawrence or myself and Teresa Pitcairn and people like Gilbert McLean and people like Mr. Dr. and President Roy Bodden, because it seems to me that the lights will go out in the country. We need action, and we need to take it ourselves. I was just suggesting to Dr. Lawrence that perhaps we should have some classes where we could invite people to come who are interested in learning about their constitutions and learn about how the political system works and learn about how the party system works, so that they can be prepared even when this referendum, if it comes on. Because the thing about it is, how are they going to cast their vote in a referendum if they do not have the information about the subject matter of the referendum? That's something else that has to be done, because we need to know the subject matter of the referendum. We need to know what the environmental impact studies say, whether it says good or bad. All of those things also have to follow if a referendum is going to be successful to the people.
Okay. Yes, so and I'm glad Dr. Steve raised that, because I'm talking about how do we ensure that we're in a position to make informed decisions about whether or not the dock is actually good. We should now have had a referendum law which actually sets out what is required when you're going to take these steps. For example, how far in the process with getting the persons involved to fund the dock are we? How far are we in the process? When it's time for us to actually go to vote on the referendum, will the whole activity be all for naught, because you don't know whether or not the government will have signed off on a contract and so on. So there's the cart. We don't know how far this process has reached, and we're here still talking about the whole process with the referendum itself. So that's one of the things. We need to make sure that steps are halted until we know or until we have sufficient information to determine whether or not this is actually good. So that's to be in an informed position. The other thing, as I started with, was with respect to ensuring that we develop some form of documentation or doctrine or regulation which advises us and certainly the government to determine whether or not what steps the United Kingdom is authorized to take when it wants to interfere in our government or pass orders in council. We need to know. So that is something I'm suggesting to our government to look into strongly right now.
That is a part of the request in terms of the proposals with the Constitution. The Cayman Islands should be informed of, before any action is taken.
So we want to know what constitutes, for example, unlawful interference. So that is something that I'm hoping that we're going to get into, especially as our country grows with the population. And this is something that transcends beneficial ownerships or other broader financial services.
Okay. Madam Speaker, you're going to have the last word for the morning. But before we come to you, just want to read this. It says, good morning. Yes, OC, there was, I believe, a press conference with Mr. Miller and perhaps 2 statements in the LA. The plan has always been to bring any agreed changes to the Legislative Assembly, and this will be done once there is something formally agreed. And term limits for the Premier is not one of the items, nor was it requested by government. Mr. Miller recently confirm that. Now, Madam Speaker, the other writer before that had disagreed with your position in relation to the verification process, and give you an opportunity.
Well, the old people use Hadley's saying, why shut the gate after the horse gets out? We are in the position now where I saw in the press that they were closing the bids on the port contract, and that at a certain date in the very near future, they were going to name who had won the bid. We have a people's request for a referendum on the issue. As Mrs. Pitcairn just said, we have very little information in the public on the actual issue and what they're planning to do and what the consequences are going to be and all the rest of it. We have very little information on that. And we don't know what the question is that they're going to put on the referendum paper. But I do know this. It becomes obsolete. No matter how many times we go to the polls to vote, it becomes obsolete if the decisions have already been taken as to who and the contract signed as to who is going to do the port.
It would have been a Pyrrhic victory.
It has actually no meaning because and this is why I take serious umbrage at the interference, and I call it interference, in the actions of the people to have a say in something that is going to cost this country $300 million or $200 million or however $100 million it is, because that money has to come from the people of this country. And we need to have a say in that kind of expenditure. We have an airport up there now, and I don't want to enunciate the number of things that seem to be going wrong with that, and it hasn't gotten off the ground yet. We are spending huge sums of money, but this is one of the most, not just the amount of money that is going to be spent on the port, but the tremendous impact it is going to have on this country and its people. When you put those piers out there and you bring cruise ships in there and you bring that deep water in there and you take all that silt and you transfer it down to 7 Mile Beach, we need to have some answers on these things, and we need to have government come out there and enunciate clearly. And they need to enunciate clearly also what is in that contract that the people who are going to get it are going to be called account for. When it comes down to the crunch and something happens out there that we feel is going to be detrimental to the country, what is going to be the consequence in the contract that they have signed? We need to know these things, and there should be no big secret about this kind of thing. There should be no big secret about it. And why? What are they afraid of? This is what I don't understand. Why are we all sitting down trembling in fear that if we tell the people something that the people might not understand? Why are we in that kind of fear? Is it because we didn't educate them properly? We need to start thinking, and I go back again, and I will go back to it as often as I have a public forum to do it. Education is the key. We need to educate the people on the actions of government. We need to understand. Dr. McField just said that there are 11 pieces of legislation coming to the House on the financial industry. We understand the need for security in this financial industry. But couldn't somebody just go on the microphone and say, in summary, this is what this piece of legislation is going to do. In summary, this is what this piece of legislation
is going to do. They will be on the further
so
record on Monday.
So the people can clearly understand. You know, this should just be knowledge that the people can soak up, so they can know, they can feel that the government is acting in their benefit and acting on their behalf, and not just for us, like I said, but for the future generations to come.
Okay, Madam Speaker, you spoke about curriculum in the schools, educating people about our government, students about our government. We have put it on the curriculum of For the Record as well, and we will continue to educate and enlighten our people. You know, as far as constitutions and government is concerned, we hope then to continue this conversation next week, Wednesday, if it is at all possible. So I want you to keep your calendars open, or just mark it there, block it off for next week, Wednesday, where we can continue this conversation, engage the people, enlighten them, educate them as much as we can. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the busy roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or if you're working in the outdoors. Also want to thank our panel this morning as well for the very enlightening and informative conversation that we have had during this session. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity, because we always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want or even those who crave. I say to you, have a great day. Continue to support your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Banks at 12:15 for Talk Today. And as usual, we ask the good Lord to bless these three beautiful, wonderful Cayman Islands.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location for you just around the corner. Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates. Rotary Central, for more than 110 years, Rotary members have used their passion, energy, and intelligence to take action on sustainable projects. Fidelity Bank, for all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you. And Roper's Janitorial, complete janitorial service for commercial, industrial, and residential. They get the job done right every time.